grind. It's the grind. It's the grind. It's the grind.
If you want to achieve success, you're going to have to pay the price. And it won't be cheap. It'll be tireless nights, long days, empty bank accounts, depressing thoughts, isolation, loneliness, tribulation, heartaches, headaches, and a lot of pain. But on the other side of pain is pleasure. On the other side of pain is success. And if you understand that and you have that as the beacon in the forefront of your life, well, work becomes more bearable. The journey becomes more enjoyable.
Tireless nights, empty betting accounts, loneliness, headaches. We've all been there. If you're a punter, you've all been there. But what you're seeing on the screen there is the last 2 weeks of the official tips plus 30%. And what comes after that is a lot of pleasure a lot of the time. Often it doesn't as well, and you don't know when it's going to come. But if you keep trying and keep pushing ahead, it often does come. And I've been through this run, as I've spoken about plenty of times, on the grind. The last sort of 6 to 8 weeks have been awful, and I've pushed through that. It's, as I said, it's not the first time that I've been through it. I know what's going to come because it's come before, and I expect it, and I got it. 2 weeks, there it is on the screen, 2 weeks plus 30%. And when you've been through hell of 2 months of losing and you get that 2 weeks of winning, the actual pleasure is greater than if you had been winning and then you get the 2 weeks. It's like when you go on a holiday, it's better. I enjoy it more personally. And as I say, what I speak is just about my own personal experience, but I enjoy it more if I've been working hard and I really deserve the holiday, rather than if I've been sitting on my ass and you just been on a holiday and then you got another one back to back a couple of days later or a couple of weeks later or something. For some reason, you don't enjoy that as much as if you have been working. You really deserve it. So really happy that we've had a couple of winning weeks, or I've had a couple of winning weeks. 203 bets, 61 winners, a win percentage of 30% and a ROI of 30% as well. So the hard work doesn't stop. We keep going. As I said, we don't do anything different. We just keep plowing ahead. I have made a few subtle changes in the model over the last sort of 2, 3, 4 weeks, which are kicking in a little bit now, hopefully. And hopefully we keep winning. We're not going to keep winning at 30%. But I'll go through the results since we started on June the 12th and have a look exactly where we are at and what I expect the future results to be. What I want to do now at the start is just talk about odds, because how important odds are in your longevity as a punter and your profitability as a punter, taking the right price. When I started out at the racetrack when I was 17, 18, I was very fortunate to have the guidance of my brother, Sean, who's taught me a hell of a lot about odds and the importance of taking the right price, whether you're punting or back then bookmaking, laying things at the right price, buying, sell, whether it be buying high, punting, and then laying back short sometimes at the lower price. Just like a stock market, you don't want to be buying stocks at the worst possible price. You want to be buying low and selling high and making a profit there. And it's no different in the horse racing. If you take a race like, let's go back to Saturday here and have a look at Private Eye's race, and have a look at the fluctuations on this horse. So just trying to get this up now. Yeah, Private Eye Pericles. So I backed Private Eye in the morning at $3.40 and $3.30. But if you have a look at the fluctuations there, with the tab open 240, drifted as high as 340, 330, and then was crunched. You can't see you can't see the fluctuations down the bottom there. But on Saturday it went 340, 330, $3, 280, and got as low as you can see there. Now these are the finishing prices on Betfair, 226 and 228. And on Best Tote, 220. These are all the bookies here, 215, between 210 and 220, basically. So the other horse that I backed in the race was the winner, Pericles, and I waited on Pericles and backed on Betfair at around that $11 mark. I averaged for Pericles. So I handled this race really well. Got the right result as well. But I don't handle them all, obviously, this good price-wise. I'm not talking about the result here. I'm talking about the price. I make mistakes as well, taking price. But the price is the key. So you see private eye. When do you bet? Like, that's a really, really hard part about punting in 2025. When do you bet? Back in the day, on the racetrack, back when I was talking about when I started, my job working for Sean on the ground. My job was working on the ground, so I'd be looking at all the prices, and you get a real idea when things firmed. So things would firm on the rails, and you'd run out to the outer or the end of the rails and back the horse at overs or the price that they were taking. So horse might be going off at 4-1, and they'd be smashing it everywhere. You go out the back and get a bit of 9-2 or $5.50, back it to win 5 or 10,000. Keep that bet, lay it back shorter. So my schooling, thanks to Sean, was very much around the value. And people get so focused on form. I like private eye. I like Pericles. No, I like linebacker. No, I like um, um, Swift Falcon. But it doesn't really. I mean, it does matter how you select the horse, obviously. But if you backed every favorite, for example, throw the form out the window, and you just backed every favorite, and you were taking this sort of a price that I took 340 and 330 about horses that are starting 220. Obviously, you can't do that, but I'm just saying if you did do that, you would finish with a lot of money without actually crushing and laying them back. The reason you would finish with money is because over time. So if I go and test firming horses at top fluctuation or big firmers with the tab. So if you back all the horses that are, get crunched in 3 or 4 turns, you win 30 at once. You win 30% on turnover. So you can't get those prices, but what you can do is attempt to get the best price by, firstly, in 2025. People a lot of the time don't realize that there are you can shop for odds. If you go to the supermarket and buy a couple of cabbages, you walk in, Coles might have them for $2.80, Woolworths might have them for $2.90, Aldi might have them for $2.50. So you might go to Aldi if you're doing you're skimping on your shopping. But people seem nowadays in 2025 not to give a shit about price and the price that they take. And it is so important because it doesn't matter. People say, oh, well, it won. It doesn't matter. I'm happy just to back a winner. But over time, if you're serious about punting, it'll catch up with you if you're taking the wrong price. And it will eventually lead to you losing. It doesn't matter how good your form is. If you're in taking, say, $2 or $2.10 about private eye when you could have got 330, and you are constantly taking the wrong price, it will catch up with you. And as I'm coming back to price, people are so focused on picking the horses that they want to win and not focusing on the price. You need both. As comes back to my 5 pillars, you need both. So how do you help yourself by getting the top price? Well, it's a different market now here, because a lot of the bookies do bet the same odds, but you'll see here in this that they don't all bet the same odds. For example, 220 here against 210. So there is a little bit of shopping. Pericles, boom bet 1020, the other bookies 950. It doesn't seem much, but it adds up over time. So one of the things that of course Betfair as well. One of the things are having multiple accounts. If you can have more than one account. The thing in 2025, if you're lucky enough to get it, I don't know a lot about it because I don't get it, but the bonuses, the boosts, the bonus bets, the bonus deposits, the money backs for second and thirds, utilize all them. There's 100 bookies out there. Go and utilize them if you've got the time. If you're half serious about punting, about winning on the punt, go and utilize them all, because there's 100 bookies. It's coming up to springtime. They want business. Go and open about 10 accounts if you can. Put $50, $20, whatever it may be, and just keep on having 2 bets here, 2 bets there, and utilizing these things. So that's one one way that you can do that. As well, look for horses that are firming. So Private Eye, for example, you could see 240, 250 all the way out to 320. That was on the Wednesday and then stabilized around that 330, went 330 into 3, which is often a good guide there, that the money's coming. Eased back out to 330, went 340. So you could see it stabilized around that 320, 340 mark and had really found its price. So you're looking for a horse to stabilize, find its price, but you're also looking for it to firm a little bit. So when it went 330 into $3, you would then shop around a bit, have a look. Maybe you can boost it up to 330. Maybe you can get 320 with another bookie. So maybe that's the time to bet. You're not always going to get it right, but the point is have that at the forefront of your mind that odds do matter. And also, at the end of the day, go back and have a look at the odds that you took and compare them either to the Betfair SP, which is here. You may not have access to this. This is dynamic odds, or the best of the 3 totes. So in this race, I took $11 Pericles, paid $10 best tote, $11.50 Betfair SP. I'd be happy with that. Private Eye, 330, 340, great bet. Got beat, who cares? Started 220. But the point is that which I keep going on about, I won't keep saying, that you got to take the right price. It's not easy because it did used to be easier back in the day. But back in the day, I've got to tell you, there was no best tote with an SP guarantee. There was no top fluck hardly at all. It came in probably, 15 years ago or something like that, but it wasn't prevalent. There was no best of the best, which was in, but now has gone. So there weren't as many bookies to choose from probably back then, although the outer there might have been 40. Now you got 100. The difference back then was you had the rails where the bigger punters bet, and then you had the smaller bookies in the outer where you could go to and pick off the overs. You don't have that so much anymore because all the bookies are automated. So when the big boys change, then they change virtually instantly, which back then there was a bigger time delay. So that's about it, I think. I just want to talk about odds and just show you this as well. So this is my screen. This is every bet since 2018. This is at top fluck. So you lose 7% on turnover if you backed every horse top fluck. That's betting on a variable stake, betting to win X. New South Wales total, the totes, you lose about 14%. So you can see there, just from walking into a tab, you're going to lose 14. Probably you'll lose more walking into a tab and just putting it on the tote. That is top fluck -7. All the totes are about the same. Let's have a look at best tote, which is available. So best tote's -8 there for best tote. So you can see there, just by getting the best tote as opposed to taking just the one tote, that adds 6%. That adds 6% to your bottom line. Everything's small margins in this game. You're never going to be winning 20, 30%. Everything's small margins. And you need to eke out every little bit you can get. Add the SP on. It gives you another 1%, which few bookies, I saw Ladbrokes today, they're betting best of 3 totes with the SP as well on a Monday, which is fantastic. Often a great product because one of those totes can often kick out with a bit of tote manipulation there. That often happens as well. So let's get over there. So that's just the difference between that. So if you what you're really trying to do, this doesn't include any early betting as well, which sometimes the early prices do end up over. So you got your top fluck at -7. You got your best tote at -8. But if you could pick out the best of those two, you're probably getting it down to -2. Every horse, not just the horses you're backing. This is every horse. So if you are getting the right price, as coming back to this, that'd be under 100%. So just to give you a quick lesson in percentages, if you don't know, toss of a coin, 50-50, $2 both. Percentage, you work it out by 100 divided by 2, which equals 50. 50 plus 50 equals 100. These markets, if the bookie had no advantage, would be 100%. These markets here are roughly 120%. The tote market is at roughly 118% here. So what I'm talking about here is the best tote being 107, was it? And the top fluck, which is from 25 minutes out on a Saturday or 20 minutes out on a provincial and country meeting is minus 7%. Betfair is always around that 100%. You can see 102, but you do have to pay anywhere between 5 and 10% commission, which brings it back to the field as well. But it's still a really good option and not in there as well. So picking off the top price, using all the things I mentioned, is so important, and just as important as the horses that you are picking to back. Righto, let's move on, and we will do a bit of analysis work now. Let's start from the start, 12th of June, when we launched, to Saturday, the 6th of September. We'll leave Sunday the 7th out because the data hasn't been loaded up yet. It'll be in tomorrow, but we finished about square yesterday, so there's no big deal there. Let's run this query, plus 4.5% now. I think when we started before, it was minus about 4. I mean, 2 weeks ago, last time I did this show, was about minus 4. We've had a fill up the last couple of weeks. We're up to plus 4 now, which is great. We're on the way back. Let's have a look at the top selection, which there is one in every race. There's a selection. He got up to plus 10 early and is working its way back down now, which I did expect. I thought plus 10 was too big. Plus 5, I think, is about where it will stabilize. There's 3,900 bets over the past, say, 3 months. Plus 5, I think, is where it'll end up. I think the official tips will exceed 10. I think they'll keep going up and exceed 10. Let's hope. That's based on past historical results. I've never done selection 1 before, so I'm not really sure about that. We'll delve into that a bit deeper later. The overlays go quite well with that. Let's have a look at lays as well and just see where the overall figure is with lays, minus 14. Now let's have a look at everything. This is every horse if you backed every horse. And then I just want to compare these. So every horse, call it minus 5. So we've got minus 5 if you back every horse. That's to win $200 with a maximum bet of 100. The official tips, let's call it plus 4. The number 1 selection plus 5. So let's just call them plus 5. So we've got minus 5. The horses I like are plus 5. The horses I don't like are minus 14. So you've got a 10% difference on either side there, which is 20% in total, which is fantastic. It shows that the model works. Do we want to get it high? Yes, of course we do. We want to get it up to a 15% or 20% either way, between the horses we do like and the horses we don't like. But what it does show is if you're buying this form for $25 a week on a Saturday, then it is giving you an advantage. It's giving you a starting point to put in your own work, or just bet off that if you want to, but also put in your own work. And it's giving you a real platform. If someone was to give me a platform that gave me a 10, 20% advantage over the market, I would jump at it and I'd stick it into my own model, and it would increase my model by, I don't know how much, 2, 3, 4%. Let's continue on and get back to the official tips. Run this again. And what I want to show you, I was talking about odds before. I just want to show you the difference between the top price. So this is the best price after the form's released, or the average of the best price. So Private Eye, for example, would have been about $3.20. Pericles would have been about $9.50, or maybe $10, probably $9.50. If you run this against final price, it's obviously going to be less. Final price average is about 120%. High price, 105%. So that's at minus 10.5%. So if you just turned up and you just went bang at the end with 1 minute to go and just put your bet on with any bookie, you would not be winning off the official tips at all. So if you go back to the high price, and I'll just show you about where sort of I am, I'm not winning off them either, because I do about 5%. I always calculate that about 5% worse. So I'm about square, I think, for the last 3 months. Reason being, I'm not always getting that top price, and I'm betting in volume as well. So when you bet in volume, so a horse, Private Eye, for example, I took 330 or 340, 330, and maybe a little bit of 320. Because I'm betting in volume and I'm not getting any promotions, that's the only way I can bet. And in New South Wales, I can't put my bet on till 9 a.m., unfortunately. I wish that rule would change. It needs to change. Same as South Australia, same as WA as well. Luckily, Queensland and Victoria, you can put your bet on at any time. But um, that is the difference then of 15% between getting the top price and putting your bet on right at the end, which is huge. It's huge. It's the difference between winning and losing, which I talked about in the first segment. So um, let's add in some advanced filters here and just have a look. Now, because the sample size is quite small, there's only 1,168. I'm not going to go through and pick out the ones that sort of win a lot and say, oh, you should be doing this. Because what I do with, just to give you a background of what I've done for the last few decades, I've got a list every bet that I've had, selections wise, not amounts wise, selection wise. And what I do is I run them against all these filters plus a hell of a lot more. And what that does is shows me where my strengths and my weaknesses are. Maybe I'm backing too many horses down in the weights. Maybe I'm don't win backing horses that are carrying 60 kilos or more. Maybe I don't win backing back markers in sprint races. So you'll see what I'm trying to do is fine tune the model with the weightings of the factors and see where the strengths and the weaknesses are. So when I sit here and run, if I sat here and run 1168 through this, it's not really going to where I think the tips will get to is a very stable place. So if I run the actual the selected horses through my database, it's all very stable, whether it be front runners or back markers or weights or anything you can think of, distance ranges or days of the week or anything like that, countries and provincials and metros, heavy tracks and everything else. You'll see that there's less bets in certain areas and more bets in certain areas because I've already done that back analysis work to fine tune and hone the actual selection process. But there are a couple of things here that were interesting to me, which I want to go through. I've always struggled with first up horses, and I've put in here days since last run. So what I'm going to do is put in 55 to 999. There's a lot of first up horses at the moment, especially on a Saturday with the champs coming back and horses resuming, looking for bigger targets. So I've always struggled with first up horses in the past, getting it right. I didn't have trials in the model. Everything was computer based. So I am putting a human element into this selection process now, especially with first up horses. And I'm really pleased with this figure of 202 first up horses for 32% profit. So majority of the profit is coming out of those first up horses. And what I've done differently, I'm going to tell you in the model. So I'm putting trials in there. I'm putting and the number of trials that a horse is running in, which to me indicates readiness for the race, whether they've had more than one trial, how they trialed, watching trials as well, seeing whether horses, what times they've run, where they've finished. The other thing which I think is incredibly important with first up horses is the distance suitability for the race. Is the horse ready to win at that distance? Has it done it in the past? Is its running style suited to that distance? So we saw Sir Delius run a great race on the weekend. What a Melbourne Cup trial by Delius. But 1,600 metres wasn't really suited. Was it 14 or 16? Anyway, wasn't really suited at that distance at all. We saw Chio Wolf seemed to tick all the boxes, 1,600. Chio Wolf ticked all the boxes and was well backed. So what you find in this scenario a lot is when I did the Saturday set on Thursday, Sir Delius was 420 into 380, smart money early, but not really suited. Bigger fish to fry with the Melbourne Cup looming. And also, I like Sir Delius, but I didn't back Sir Delius because of that reason. Not suited at the distance and not the main target as well. So we saw Lady Shenandoah as well over the 1,000 metres. Jimmy Star over the 1,000 metres. Not 1,000-metre horses at all. But I find that they drift. Lady Shenandoah was quite well backed and then eased out late. But I find that they drift. You won't do well backing horses that aren't suited at the distance, and you know that they're not really wound up for that first up performance. So what else? Actually wrote it down. Let me just have a quick look that I haven't forgot anything. Distance, suitability, intent to win, the number of trials, which points to the fitness, and the trial performance. The market's a very good guide as well for first up horses. If you get a first up horse sort of over that 10-1 mark, and it's going to get back in the field, often they'll be very easy in betting as well. They can win, but I wouldn't be suggesting stepping into them. So that's it for first up horses. The other thing that I've put a bit of work into, so I'm going to get rid of that, is the track condition. So we've seen a shitload of heavy tracks lately. Let's just go and see how the official tips have done on heavy tracks. Let's start with heavy 10. So I've cut back a lot. I mentioned in earlier videos that I don't really like betting on heavy 10. I also don't like betting on tracks where the inside is off. I also don't like betting on tracks where the rail's out a long way. So I'm doing a lot of work on that, because I don't just say I can't win doing it. I say, why am I not winning doing it? And then I'll go in and look and try and figure it out. And one thing which I've talked about on previous videos with the inside of the track being off is finding horses that are going to settle midfield, especially in higher pressure races, rather than finding leaders on those tracks. So heavy 10s, we're winning 28, but have a look at that. There's only 15 bets. There's not many bets that I've put in on those heavy 10s. We're back 3 winners. You little beauty. We haven't done our ass on the heavy 10s. Let's have a look at heavy 9s. There'll be more bets on heavy 9s. Let's see how we're doing on them. We're winning 7%, 44 bets, 11 winners. So not a lot of bets again, 7% profit. Let's have a look at heavy 8. And see how we're going on that. Plus 3.6%. If there's anything you want me to run through here that you see here that I haven't done, just put it in the comments and I can bang it out next week really quick and have a little chat about it as well. Because there's things that you might be sitting there going, oh, I wish you'd run that. We're still a little way away from you being able to use this. Everything takes time, but it is definitely something that will happen. So let's just run these together, all the heavy tracks, and have a look how many bets, how we're going. Plus 6.8, so doing better than the average, which was 464 bets. So heavy tracks aren't hurting us, which is great, because often you blame heavy tracks for your own performance or own bad luck, and it's actually not the case a lot of the time. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And so this is good tracks. So good tracks, heavy tracks actually doing a little bit better than good tracks, but there's nothing really there to report. The tracks are all pretty stable. What I've done, which I mentioned though, is reduce the number of bets on those heavy 10 surfaces, which is fantastic. What else was there to go through? So this is an example of something that is just complete data fitting, I think, that's coming out really good. I'm only showing you this because I want to show you what not to do in a way if it and I can go and check this through my bigger database, but I doubt it would be the case. But 34% profit, official tips, race pressure when it's very slow, you're winning 34%. It's actually a lot of bets there, 206 bets, but still not enough. I need that to be over 1,000, but I don't expect that to continue. I think that's just a random sample there. There's no reason why I'd do better in slow or very slow tempo races. I know that a lot of you getting the form on a Saturday and a Saturday only punters, so I just want to go and have a look how we are doing on a Saturday. So I'm going to get rid of that. There's nothing else in there. So Saturday official tips on a Saturday are not doing as well as the average. They're minus 8%. So it's 400 of the, I don't know, was it 1,200 bets? So 400 out of the 1,200 bets have been on a Saturday. So a third of the bets come on a Saturday because there's more race beatings. And we're not doing very well. Wednesday, which is the other sort of bigger day, I suppose, minus 12%. So let's put them together and have a look at how much we're losing on those 2 main days. Now, this is, once again, there haven't been that many. There's 3 months, so there's 12 Saturdays, there's 12 Wednesdays. This will average out over time. If I showed you the main database, it does average out, but 540, so nearly 45%, nearly 50% of bets, 45%. So bets are -9. So a lot of you might be going, oh shit, this stuff's not much good. -9 isn't much good, but I can't control where and when the winners are going to come, as we've seen over the last 2 weeks. So if you go and have a look at the other days apart from Wednesday and Saturday and then run it, it's going to show a profit, obviously, because their overall's +4. So +15, there's 625 bets, +15%. Now, this is just random. They all should average out in the end, because you might say, oh, do you do better in country races than city? Not really. I've tested it all, maybe 0.5%, 1%. But overall, it all just averages out in the end. And as well, on a Saturday, there's a lot of country meetings on a Saturday as well. So there's no reason for that. It's just random. If you tossed a coin every day, 30 times every day of the week, at the end of the year, who knows which day is going to be the best? Maybe it's going to be Friday, maybe it's that day, maybe it's Wednesday. But if you did it for 100 years, that all average out 50-50 in the end, because the longer you do something with advantage, the more consistent the results are going to be over time. I'm just see if there's anything else that I wanted to bang through. I don't think there was for now, but if there's anything you want me to run through, as I said, just let me know. The other thing that I did, which I found pretty interesting, was let's go back here to Saturday and have a look at the holds. So what I did is I added all these holds up for the Moya and the Tramway. So the Moya in Melbourne on Saturday, which was won by a horse I didn't like, Barrakill, which surprised me that it sprinted that well off that fast pace. It was a big go, Skybird. I ended up having something on Skybird, and I also backed, which started equal favourite with the other horse that I like, Neons. They both started favourite, and both missed a place. Barrakill was too good for him through the middle, but I'm talking about turnover. So I added up the holds for the Moya Stakes for this year against last year. So let me just tell you what it was. So for Betfair, Moya Stakes in 2025 was 269,000. The Moya Stakes in 2024 was 346,000. So there was a fair drop there year on year for the Moya on Betfair. On the tote, this year the Moya held 506,000 across the three totes in the win pool, and last year held 371,000. So there was an increase in the tote pool, which surprised me. I was surprised that those win pools had actually increased. The Tramway, which Pericles won, Betfair this year 147,000. Last year 169,000. So there was a drop there as well. Not as marked as the Moya. The tote this year 371,000 in the win pool. Last year 300,000. So there was an increase as well in the tote win hold on that as well, 300 to 371,000, which surprised me. So those tote win markets have gone up. Then I added up the days for Sydney and Melbourne. So the total day for Sydney and Melbourne combined in this year on Saturday, Betfair matched 3.98 million in. So Betfair matched 3.98 million in, and the tote 4.77 million. The tote the year before 4.59 million. There was a drop in Betfair turnover of 13% year on year. Tote, there was an increase of 4% year on year. I've written Betfair down as 7. I'm going to go and check that. I've written Betfair for 2024 7.24 million, and then I've written Betfair for this year is 3.98 million. I don't think it was that bigger because I've written 13% drop, which doesn't sound right. So I've stuffed that up somewhere. But the tote's gone up and Betfair's come down. Probably the 13% is more accurate. I think that 7.24 million is is wrong, but I'm going to go and check that. But my point is, Betfair's come down, the tote has gone up. We need competitive marketplaces in Australia to keep going. So it's very important that Betfair market keeps on with liquidity, because it does drive turnover into other areas of the market. So it'll drive turnover. It'll drive turnover through the bookies betting rings. It'll drive turnover through the corporate bookies, through the other 3 jurisdictions. So it is important that we do keep those commissions as low as possible. And the reason why Betfair has dropped off is because of those commission increases as well. So it's a very important part of the ecosystem in Australia, and as is all 4 of them, to be honest. But we need competitive markets to keep driving turnover, so that we can come back to taking the right odds. Because if those percentages keep going up, then, as you can see, if we're left with just that final price and the market's not moving, it's going to be very, very hard to win punting, which it is always anyway. So that's it for me. I'll be back on Friday for another episode of Max Bet, and how exciting with these good horses coming back. So stay in the game, stay in the zone, keep your head on when you're punting, keep backing winners. I'll see you Friday.
Think, is this a bet you really want to place? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.